Harry and Meghan have, whether they mean to or not, they have turned Archie and Lilibet into the two most famous children in the world.
She doesn't want me to see them. That's the way it's going to be.
Of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily, or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing.
Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so?
It's absolutely unbelievable that any member of the royal family could have set about creating what is an international scandal where people have the means, as a result of her and her husband's conduct, to question whether they have perpetrated the scam of the century.
The scam of the century. That is the phrase Lady Colin Campbell used publicly, and it instantly turned heads. When someone with her reputation, connections, and decades of experience around royal circles chooses words that strong, people pay attention. She is not known for throwing around dramatic claims without reason, which is why her comments sparked so much discussion. Thomas Markle has been arriving at a similar conclusion for years, although in a very different way. He is not a royal commentator or a historian. He is a father trying to make sense of a situation that has left him with more questions than answers.
To have performed in a pregnancy the way Meghan did. Anything to do with those children and how they came into existence would have possibly racial implications, when of course it's nothing to do with that at all.
And as a grandfather, he has continued asking one simple question, only to be met with silence again and again. Recently, Thomas Markle has shared new details about Lilibet, including what he says he has been shown and, just as importantly, what he says he has never been shown. Those remarks have caught the attention of people who have followed this story closely. Across social media and royal watcher communities, many reactions have centered on surprise.
I do believe because there are no delivery certificates, and I heard stories early on around the time Archie was allegedly in utero and being born. I heard stories that royal staffers were not allowed to see or touch her abdomen. And what really got me was the idea that a royal physician was not allowed to examine her womb.
Confusion and growing curiosity about the bigger picture. In this video, we will break down exactly what Thomas Markle has revealed, why his comments have generated so much attention, and how they connect to observations made by several well-known voices in the royal world. The reason his words are carrying extra weight right now is tied to the personal story behind them. After all, the story of a grandfather separated from his grandchildren is powerful on its own, and it adds another layer to an already extraordinary royal controversy. At the center of it all is a question that refuses to go away. Thomas Markle is in a rare position to ask it, and many believe he has every reason to keep asking.
Nobody set out to destroy you. You destroyed yourselves in this country with your ludicrous, hypocritical behaviour. The truth be told, what you just said is complete and utter garbage by the British media, the public and the royal family that they've all now abandoned. That's the truth.
The question is straightforward, but impossible to ignore. Who are these children really, and how much does the public actually know about them? And why is it that every effort to get clear answers from the most direct and legitimate sources, including the children's own grandfather, has reportedly run into the same thing again and again, a wall of silence that has lasted for years? At this point, many observers argue that the lack of explanation.
Hugo is extremely cautious. Hugo, which I am not. I don't need to be. I can call a spade a spade. But also Hugo is, by saying what he has said, what Hugo is actually saying
has become a major part of the story itself. Let's start with the basic facts, because even those are unusual enough to to attract attention. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten-Windsor recently celebrated her 5th birthday. She is the younger child of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and carries a name intended to honour both Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana, two of the most recognised and admired figures in modern royal history. Thomas Markle, her maternal grandfather, has publicly stated that he has never had the opportunity to build a meaningful relationship with her. According to his own accounts, there have been no family visits, no phone conversations, and no personal moments shared between grandparent and grandchild.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king, who doesn't know these children, and how unfair this is.
He has described watching from a distance as the children grow up, relying on the same public images and social media posts available to everyone else. That situation has shocked many people who follow the story closely. Thomas Markle is now an elderly man living in Rosarito Beach, Mexico, and he has spoken openly about the sadness he feels over being separated from that part of his family. Based on his statements, he has no more direct access to information than members of the public who follow royal news online. What has drawn particular attention recently is not only his frustration about being excluded, but also the questions he says that exclusion has created in his mind.
The birth has raised questions of fraudulence, because you cannot give birth after you have given birth.
He has suggested that being unable to see his grandchildren in person leaves him with very little first-hand knowledge about their lives. As a result, he has focused on the limited public photographs that have been released over the years and the discussions those images have generated among royal watchers. Rather than speaking only about family estrangement, Thomas Markle has been talking about the uncertainty he feels from having so little direct contact and so few opportunities to form his own impressions. For supporters following his comments, that has become one of the most debated and talked about aspects of this ongoing royal saga.
And Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent builds on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism.
That combination of limited family access and ongoing public speculation is what many of Thomas Markle's supporters say they find so troubling. They point to the timeline as a key reason why the debate continues. Lilibet was born in June 2021, and in the years since, Thomas Markle has given numerous interviews discussing his wish to know his grandchildren, his disappointment over the distance, and the questions he says remain unanswered from his perspective. He has continued speaking publicly despite knowing that many people strongly disagree with him and challenge his claims. Critics argue that his comments are inappropriate, while supporters believe he is raising concerns he feels are important. Regardless of where people stand, the discussion has remained active because he has refused to stop asking questions he believes deserve answers. What many of his supporters focus on most is how ordinary his requests appear on the surface.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery. If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is. And so, if they don't like it, why don't they just satisfy the curiosity?
According to his public statements, he is not asking for media attention, a public event, or special treatment. Instead, he says he wants the kinds of connections many grandparents hope to have: a family photograph, a conversation, a chance to hear a grandchild's voice, or simply the opportunity to know them personally. Supporters argue that these are basic family wishes rather than extraordinary demands. Critics, however, maintain that private family boundaries should be respected. That divide has become one of the central points of disagreement in this long-running royal controversy. The debate becomes even more intense when broader claims about royal family events and procedures are brought into the conversation. Some commentators and royal observers have pointed to reports, anecdotes, and accounts from various sources that they believe raise additional questions.
But he was in that film giving support to families who are suing this same social media platform for destroying their children's mental health.
Others strongly reject those interpretations and argue that speculation has often gone far beyond the available evidence. As a result, what should be a straightforward family story has turned into a much larger public dispute, filled with competing narratives, unanswered questions, and arguments over what is fact, what is opinion, and what can actually be verified. These are the kinds of claims that have fueled debate for years, and supporters of Thomas Markle often point out that they feel many questions remain unanswered. At the same time, critics argue that a lack of public explanation does not automatically validate speculation. What is clear is that the silence surrounding certain topics has only kept the discussion alive and given people even more to talk about. Thomas Markle has heard various reports, commentaries, and accounts connected to the story.
You're not protecting their privacy because you're putting them out there purposefully. And the one thing that I would say is a little different with people who do say the same thing, but also obscure their children's faces, is when their children are, maybe caught in a shot that they didn't expect.
Based on his public remarks, he has processed them as a father who feels separated from an important part of his family life. Over time, what began as sadness appears to have evolved into a determination to keep asking questions he believes deserve clarification. His more recent comments about Lilibet reflect that shift in focus. Rather than speaking only about disappointment, he has emphasized what he sees as unresolved issues and unanswered concerns. According to his own statements, he believes he is entitled to seek answers and intends to continue doing so for as long as he can. One of the details frequently discussed by commentators involves reports regarding royal medical oversight and access during the pregnancy period. Supporters who raise this topic argue that it stands out because of how specific the claims are. Critics, however, counter that many public accounts surrounding royal matters are incomplete and should be treated cautiously unless independently confirmed. That disagreement is a major reason the story continues to attract attention. Some observers view these reported details as unusual and worthy of further explanation, while others see them as examples of how speculation can grow when limited information is available. The result is a controversy that has become larger than any single claim and continues to divide opinion across royal watcher communities. From Thomas Markle's perspective, as expressed in public interviews, the most frustrating part appears to be the lack of direct family contact. He has repeatedly returned to the idea that personal interaction would answer many of his questions far more effectively than public statements ever could. A simple family visit, a conversation, or an ordinary grandparent-grandchild relationship would provide a level of reassurance that public photographs and media reports cannot. That is why supporters often focus on what they see as the completeness of the separation. They argue that the issue is no longer just about distance between relatives, but about years of limited contact that have left important questions unresolved in the minds of those following the story. As a result, the debate continues to generate strong reactions and intense discussion across the royal world. Some of the strongest debates among royal watchers center on the public photographs that have been released over the years. Certain online commentators have pointed to differences between images and argued that they raise questions.
Their child would be there. But what Meghan is doing clearly is she is highlighting these children constantly and putting them out there front and center to say, look at my children. That's what she is saying.
They mention things like apparent changes in height, hair appearance, or image details that they believe look unusual when photographs are compared side by side. Others strongly disagree and argue that factors such as camera angles, lighting, image quality, editing choices, and the passage of time can easily create misleading impressions. These discussions have become a major talking point among supporters of Thomas Markle because they connect to a broader concern he has expressed publicly for years. From his perspective, as described in interviews, he has had very limited opportunities to know his grandchildren personally. As a result, public photographs become one of the few sources of information available to him, which naturally gives those images greater importance in the eyes of people following the story. Online observers who study the photos often claim they see inconsistencies, while critics of those claims argue that such conclusions rely heavily on speculation rather than verifiable evidence. That disagreement has created endless debate across social media, royal forums, and video channels, with both sides insisting they are looking at the same images and reaching very different conclusions. The latest birthday photograph sparked another round of discussion. The image showed Lilibet wearing a sundress with only part of her visible. Some viewers focused on small details within the picture, including accessories and styling choices, while others simply viewed it as a family snapshot shared for a birthday celebration. As often happens with royal-related content, even minor details quickly became subjects of analysis and debate. Supportive media coverage described the photograph as sweet and charming. Meanwhile, royal commentators who closely follow every release examined the image frame by frame, discussing what they believed it revealed or failed to reveal. That pattern has become familiar in this story. Every new photograph generates another wave of questions, theories, counter-arguments, and reactions, ensuring that public interest remains as intense as ever. And according to his public remarks, Thomas Markle has been paying attention to those discussions as well, continuing to voice his desire for more direct family connection rather than relying on photographs alone. "We have caught on to her. We figured her out." That is the feeling some of Thomas Markle's supporters say they have reached after years of following this story.
I think Meghan is going to prove to be like Angelina Jolie. There are some women who will do anything to work over a man.
From their perspective, the combination of unanswered questions, public disagreements, limited family contact, and ongoing debate over photographs has built into something they find difficult to ignore. Critics, however, argue that many of these conclusions go beyond the available facts and rely heavily on interpretation rather than proof. For supporters, the issue is not any single incident, but the accumulation of events over time. They point to years of public discussion, repeated questions, and the lack of direct communication between Thomas Markle and his grandchildren. In their view, those factors have created a situation where speculation continues to grow rather than fade away. Many also argue that traditional explanations centered on privacy no longer satisfy everyone following the story. Others strongly disagree, saying Harry and Meghan have every right to protect their children's private lives from intense public attention. That disagreement remains one of the biggest dividing lines in the entire debate. Thomas Markle's role in the story is often viewed as significant because he is not a royal expert, journalist, or commentator by profession. He is Meghan Markle's father and the children's grandfather. Supporters believe that gives his questions a personal weight that outside observers do not have. Critics respond that family relationships can be complicated and that the public does not know all the private circumstances involved. What is undeniable is that the separation has lasted for years and has become a major topic of discussion. Thomas Markle has repeatedly spoken about his disappointment regarding the lack of contact, while others have defended the family's decision to maintain distance. Because no detailed public explanation has been provided, both sides continue to interpret the situation very differently. Lady Colin Campbell has also weighed in on the controversy and has been outspoken about what she sees as attempts to dismiss certain lines of questioning. She argues that criticism should be evaluated based on evidence and arguments rather than assumptions about motive. Her supporters agree with that position, while her critics contend that some claims surrounding the story are speculative and unsupported. Thomas Markle approaches the issue from a much more personal angle. In his public comments, he speaks less as an analyst and more as a father and grandfather who wants answers about a family situation he says he does not fully understand.
And children are fair game. I have little doubt that if there was a divorce, she would bend over backwards to be as nasty as possible. That's just her personality.
Whether people agree with him or not, his concerns continue to fuel discussion and keep this long-running royal controversy firmly in the spotlight. Two very different people, coming from two very different perspectives, have ended up focusing on the same unresolved questions. Their overlap is one reason the debate continues to attract so much attention among royal watchers and commentators. Hugo Vickers, one of Britain's best-known royal historians, has been cited by many observers because of his reputation for being careful and measured in his public comments. Supporters of Thomas Markle often point to remarks attributed to Vickers regarding questions and uncertainties surrounding aspects of the story. For them, the significance is not just what was said, but who is saying it. They argue that when respected figures raise concerns or ask questions, those comments naturally draw more public interest. What makes this discussion different from ordinary online speculation is that it involves a mix of family members, commentators, historians, and long-time royal observers, all examining the same events from different angles. However, it is important to note that raising questions is not the same as proving allegations. Many of the claims debated in public remain disputed, and critics argue that conclusions should not be drawn without solid, verifiable evidence. For Thomas Markle's supporters, though, the growing number of people discussing these issues has given the story a different level of importance. They see it as something that has moved beyond a private family disagreement and become part of a larger public conversation about transparency, public narratives, and unanswered questions. At the center of their argument is a simple point. They believe the ongoing mystery is fueled less by what is known and more by what remains unknown. Thomas Markle has repeatedly stated that he wants answers about family matters that he feels have never been adequately explained to him. Whether people agree with him or not, that position has remained consistent over the years. Supporters also argue that the level of privacy surrounding Archie and Lilibet has contributed to public curiosity rather than reducing it. Critics respond that Harry and Meghan are entitled to protect their children's private lives.
Sorry, but the ever-changing hair colour and ever-changing size of their children is what causes so many conspiracy theories. How can she be smaller now at age 5 than she was a year ago climbing Monmouth Mountain?
And that public curiosity does not create an obligation for disclosure. That disagreement remains one of the biggest fault lines in this entire debate. In the end, many observers return to the same basic question. If concerns are misplaced, what evidence would settle them once and for all? That question continues to drive discussion, keeping the controversy alive and ensuring that every new development is examined more closely than ever. For many supporters of Thomas Markle, the issue comes down to what they see as a lack of information that could potentially address long-running public questions. They argue that official records and documentation typically exist for major life events and believe that greater clarity would reduce speculation. Others strongly disagree, pointing out that private family records are not generally owed to the public, and that parents have the right to keep personal matters confidential. That divide has only widened as the years have passed. Supporters argue that the continued absence of details has allowed questions to grow rather than disappear. Critics counter that unanswered public curiosity does not automatically mean there is something suspicious taking place. The debate continues because both sides interpret the same silence in very different ways. Thomas Markle has repeatedly expressed a much more personal concern in interviews. Beyond any public controversy, he has said that he wants the chance to know his grandchildren and to have some form of family connection with them. According to his public statements, that desire has remained consistent over the years, regardless of the wider media discussion surrounding the royal family. His supporters often point to that emotional aspect of the story as the most powerful part. They focus less on online theories and more on the image of a grandfather who says he has had little or no direct relationship with his grandchildren. For them, that is the detail that stands out and keeps people talking. What many find difficult to understand is the contrast between privacy and publicity in the modern media environment.
They are playing games, and I think even using AI to manipulate images. Yes, I believe they have children before anyone says otherwise, but perhaps this is why Harry allows her to release pictures of the kids as long as she heavily edits out their faces. Something is always off with the photos, and it's obvious they are heavily photoshopped and often badly, hence the little girl's hand melting into the balloon strings.
Harry and Meghan have shared limited glimpses of family life through selected photographs and social media content, while also emphasizing the importance of protecting their children's privacy. Supporters of the couple see that as a reasonable balance. Critics argue that it naturally invites more questions because the public receives only carefully chosen snapshots rather than a fuller picture. That contrast has become another major point of disagreement in this ongoing royal saga. To supporters of Thomas Markle, the continued lack of direct family contact remains the central issue. To others, it is simply a private family matter that outsiders cannot fully understand. Either way, the discussion shows no sign of fading, and every new update seems to spark another round of intense debate and scrutiny. The contrast that many supporters of Thomas Markle focus on is one they find difficult to ignore. They point out that the public has occasionally been shown carefully selected glimpses of Archie and Lilibet through photographs and social media posts, while Thomas Markle has publicly stated that he has had little or no direct contact with his grandchildren. In their view, that difference raises questions about where the line between privacy and public sharing is being drawn. Supporters argue that members of the public may see limited details in photographs, a profile, a hairstyle, or small family moments, while the children's grandfather says he remains largely disconnected from their lives. Critics, however, respond that parents are entitled to decide who has access to their children, and that sharing occasional images does not create an obligation to maintain relationships with extended family members. That debate has become one of the most emotional aspects of the entire story. Another issue frequently raised by Thomas Markle's supporters involves family history and heritage. They argue that grandparents often play an important role in passing down family stories, traditions, and personal memories. From that perspective, they see Thomas Markle as someone who believes he has experiences and family history that he would like to share with his grandchildren if given the opportunity. According to his public comments, his concern goes beyond simply being excluded. He has suggested that the lack of contact means the children may not have the chance to hear stories about their mother's upbringing, relatives, and family background directly from him. Supporters see that as a loss, while others argue that the public cannot know what information is being shared privately within the family. One reality that continues to fuel discussion is that Archie and Lilibet are growing older every year. As they mature, many observers wonder how they will eventually view the complicated family dynamics that have played out so publicly.
That's what Meghan is doing. She's not fooling anybody. Meghan is a hypocrite. in the biggest sense of the word, because these children have moments where they look completely different in their sizes and the color of their hair. I think what Meghan is doing is trying to control a narrative, but failing miserably at it. We have caught on to her. We figured her out.
Supporters of Thomas Markle often point to the fact that he has repeatedly expressed a desire to know his grandchildren and to have some form of relationship with them, even if only in a limited capacity. Thomas Markle's recent comments have also carried a sense of urgency. He has spoken openly about his age and health challenges, and supporters believe that has made his appeals feel even more emotional. In their eyes, this is not simply a media story or a royal controversy. It is a grandfather hoping for a connection with family while time continues to move forward. That is why many followers of the story remain so invested. For them, the central issue is not celebrity headlines or royal intrigue. It is the image of a family divided, a grandfather asking to be part of his grandchildren's lives, and a situation that remains unresolved despite years of public attention, debate, and speculation. Taken as a whole, many people following this story struggle to find a single word that fully captures the situation. For supporters of Thomas Markle, the central issue has never been fame, headlines, or royal politics. It is the belief that a grandfather has spent years trying to be part of his grandchildren's lives while feeling completely shut out of the process. According to Thomas Markle's public statements, he has used interviews, media appearances, and public appeals to express the same message over and over again. He has said that he wants a relationship with his grandchildren and does not understand why that has not happened. Supporters see those efforts as the actions of a man refusing to give up on family. Critics, on the other hand, argue that the public cannot know the full details behind private family decisions. What has made the story resonate with so many followers is that it is not built around one shocking revelation or a single dramatic moment. Instead, it is a long-running narrative made up of years of public comments, family estrangement, unanswered questions, and ongoing debate. Supporters believe that each new development adds another layer to a picture that they find increasingly difficult to ignore.
That bump had more ups and downs than Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton's marriage. I'd never known another woman of colour or another woman without colour.
From Thomas Markle's perspective, as reflected in his interviews, he is a grandfather who feels disconnected from a grandchild he says he has never had the chance to truly know. He has also spoken about reports, speculation, and discussions surrounding the family, all while maintaining that he wants answers and, more importantly, a family connection. Whether people agree with his concerns or not, his determination to keep speaking out has remained remarkably consistent. Many followers of the story find that aspect especially emotional. They see a child growing older year after year, while a grandfather continues to publicly express his wish for contact. Others maintain that family privacy should be respected, and that outsiders are not entitled to explanations. That disagreement remains at the heart of the controversy. What cannot be denied is that the conversation has not faded away. Thomas Markle continues to speak, supporters continue to discuss his comments, and critics continue to challenge his conclusions. As a result, the debate remains alive and highly visible. One thought continues to stand out for many observers. According to Thomas Markle's own account, he is a grandfather who says he has never had the opportunity to properly know his granddaughter through the ordinary family moments that most grandparents cherish. That reality, more than any headline or controversy, is the part of the story that continues to generate the strongest reactions and emotions. Lilibet has now turned 5 years old, and the questions surrounding this story continue to generate discussion across the royal world. Supporters of Thomas Markle believe the situation cannot remain unresolved forever, while others maintain that family privacy should be respected. Either way, the debate remains active and shows no sign of disappearing anytime soon. How much longer do you think this situation can continue before something finally changes? And tell me in the comments, do you think Thomas Markle deserves answers about the concerns he has raised publicly over the years? I'd love to hear your perspective on this ongoing story. If you found this video interesting or thought-provoking, please give it a like. It really helps the channel reach more people who enjoy following and discussing royal news and controversies. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who follows the royal story as closely as you do. Thanks so much for watching and for being part of the conversation.